Thanks for joining us. We love getting to share the message of God's grace with the entire world. If His message has impacted your life, would you share your testimony with us by emailing it to stories@graceorlando.com. We love to hear what God is up to. You can also give in support of this ministry by going to our website and clicking on the Give button at graceorlando.com. Thanks again.
Well, good evening and welcome to our Christmas Eve service online. What an upside down Christmas we're having, aren't we? Not exactly the way we thought it would be. And yet, here is my hope and my family's hope and the church's hope for you tonight. Wherever you are watching this, wherever it is, if it's in your car, on a phone, if it's at home with your family, wherever you are watching this, I want you to hear something. Is that Jesus came and was born for you, for specifically you tonight, is what I want you to hear. God loves you so much, and the heart of this message is that He really, really loves you. You heard it sung here a moment ago. We said that He is an everlasting Father. That is what God is like. I don't know what your earthly parents are like. Maybe you're sitting next to them right now, and maybe they're awesome. But regardless of what kind of experience you have had here on earth, I want you to hear tonight, He is a Father. And He is a very, very good Father. And He wants you to be His child. He wants you to be a part of the family. We've been talking all month in a series we've entitled An Upside Down Christmas, where we were talking about so many of the elements and the things that Jesus represented and said that seemed so upside down. As one such example, He said He was a king, or He would be a king is what was said about Him. And yet, His crown was actually us. He said He would be a priest, a high priest. And even though the temple was destroyed physically, He created a new temple with us. Again, if you haven't caught it, there's a joining of God and man. And that's what we sing about here during Christmas time. Emmanuel, God with us. That is our Father's desire, is to be with you and for all of us to be together. So whether you talk about Him or talk about what He did as us making a temple, or if you talk about Him being a king or a priest, well, however you want to look at this, a shepherd, as we looked about last week, He is wanting to be joined with you in union. And the way I want to look at that tonight together is He is a father who wanted children. Jesus called Him a father. He said He was, in fact, Jesus was here to explain the Father to us, to reveal the Father to us, because nobody, not one person, Abraham, Moses, nobody had ever truly seen the Father and experienced Him except for Jesus, His Son. So everything He was doing, even as a good shepherd and all of these different things, was to show us how He was as a father. Now here's the thing, if you know anything about Jesus' family, you know that this was one messed up family. If you go through the family tree, you'll find all kinds of scandal and just craziness. And I don't know what your family looks like, but I think Jesus picked this family for a reason. Because every family, if we're being honest, has got a lot of good and bad all kind of mixed into it. But I love that Jesus didn't pick a family that was of royal blood as far as the earth goes. He didn't pick something that we think is of glory or honor. He chose the things that were lowly. He chose a family, in fact, to be born into that was lowly in a little town called Bethlehem, a place in the world that nobody would have ever thought anything good was ever going to come out of it. And here's instead what the prophet Isaiah said. He said, "But the Lord was pleased to crush Him, putting Him to grief," this is talking about Jesus, "if He would render Himself as a guilt offering." Now, we talked about this before, but last week we said that Jesus became our shepherd and revealed why He was a shepherd, in that He wasn't a victim. He willingly laid down His life for you and for me. He loved that. He wasn't sad about it. He wasn't up on a cross mad about it. He loves you and found that an awesome opportunity. So when we read here that the Lord, the Father, crushed Him, well, there's more to it. Listen to this. He will see His offspring. So that the Father knew that the Son was never going to die, that He would pick back up His life, and in fact would see the very thing He was creating, which was all of us, the children of God. He said He will prolong His days, and the good pleasure of the Lord will prosper in His hands. Jesus will prosper forever, and you and I are in Him as believers. So we will all prosper together as the family of God. Look at Galatians 4. This is how Paul said. He talked about this Christmas night that we are celebrating together. But when the fullness of the time came, God sent forth his Son, born of a woman, born under the law, so that he might redeem those who were under the law, that we might receive the adoption as sons. Because you are sons, God has sent forth the Spirit of his Son into our hearts, crying, Abba, Father. Did you catch that? Because of who God makes you, he puts his Spirit in you, right? You are the temple of the Holy Spirit, where now you cry out, what? Father, dear Father, my Father. Therefore, you are no longer a slave, but a son. And if a son, then an heir through God. See, you and I as believers enjoy everything we enjoy, not because we deserve it, not because we did good things and now that's what God should do is do good things back to us. No, it's not based on that at all. In fact, it is based simply on a promise that the Father made to Jesus. And although you may not remember when that promise was made, it happened while Jesus was still in Abraham, like while he was still a part of the family tree and had not been born yet. Right? God looks to Abraham and says, there's one coming down the way, one that is coming that I'm making a promise to right now, that I am going to fulfill, that I am going to bless, that I am going to bring grace through him. And that is what you and I see in this fulfilled promise to Jesus, that you and I get to enjoy, where we get to leave the slavehood behind and we get to go into sainthood and enjoy being saints together, all together as a family. This was always the plan. It was to have a family. God wanted a family. Look, if you don't catch anything, know this. God didn't make the heavens and the earth and the clouds in the sky and all the animals in the ocean for any other reason except to bless you, and because that would bless him. He's that kind of father. He loves giving gifts. He's the one who gives all the gifts out to the kids and watches their faces as they open them, because that was the part he really was interested in, was watching us enjoy. Watching us enjoy his presence and being with him is what he was after. So this was all for us, and he does it to the Son. Look at what Romans 9:25-26 says. As he says in Hosea, okay, this prophet says, I will call those who were not my people, and her who was not loved, beloved. And it shall be in the place where it was said to them, you are not my people, there they shall be called the sons of the living God. Don't you remember what those angels pronounced that night in Bethlehem as they sung over the shepherds, right? They said, on earth, peace among men with whom he is pleased. That was always the message. God is pleased with you. He loves you. Will you hear it? If you're listening online tonight, do you hear it? God is pleased with you and he loves you. He wants you. And even if you were not once part of his people or the group of Israel, he's saying, I am going to save outside of that the whole world. I want everybody to come into the family. That includes people like me and you. Look at what John said. John chapter 1 would try to explain what he had seen in Jesus. And he said, who I saw was full of God's grace, which is his divine favor poured out on us. It's not deserved. It's just given because we need it. And this is what John said. He goes, look, he was in the world. Grace was. Grace was in the world, and the world was made through him. Think about that. Just what I just said a minute ago. Everything that existed because grace. In other words, God wanted to lavishly pour out on you. So everything was made through him, and the world did not know him. We didn't even catch the one who everything that was coming towards us, we didn't even see him. He came to his own, and those who were his own didn't receive him. But as many as received him, to them he gave the right to become children of God, even to those who believe in his name, who were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but God. Look, you and I didn't get to pick our families, did we? And don't look nervously at anyone sitting next to you as if you hoped that you hadn't been picked. But we didn't get to pick our families. And I love this, is that this is what John writes. He goes, look, God gave you the power to leave your family, physically family, and join his family, to be children of God. He gave you the authority, he gave you the power to do that, where you could say, I'm going to step out of this family, this world, if you will, what we call family. I'm not saying anything about your family's great, but the world is a family, right? We got a lot of work. You can leave all this behind, and you can join God's family and become one of his kids. Romans 9:8 says that it's not based on physical things, it's based on spiritual realities and on this promise that was made to Jesus. In one such moment, I love that they asked Jesus this question, and it sounds really good. They said, hey, we want to talk about marriage. Like, what happens if you're married to more than one person? Like, maybe you were married and that person died, and you get married again. And when we get to heaven, who are we married to? That's going to be real awkward, you know? And I love this. Jesus is standing there. I imagine he's laughing a little bit, and he says, look, that's how things are on earth, because you guys promise something. You say, until death do us part. He says, that's not how it is in heaven. No, there's no promises like that, because death is not a thing. Nobody dies. And now listen to this. Listen from that. This is the experience that you and I have as his kids. In Luke chapter 20, verse 36, it says, for they cannot even die anymore. That's you, that's me, believers. Because they are like angels and are sons of God, being sons of the resurrection. You can put daughter in there if you'd like. But that the dead are raised. Even Moses showed in the passage about the burning bush, where he calls the Lord the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He is not the God of the dead, but of the living, for all live to him. I love this moment. He's saying, like, listen, even way back when God was talking to all these people about Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, all these people, he's saying it's because he still saw them, even though the world could not. They were all alive to him. He could see them in a way that we can't. And see, that's the thing, is that you may or may not experience something awesome tonight if you put faith in God, if you put your life in his hands and you receive his life. You may not experience anything crazy, but you are alive to God, and that's all that's ever going to matter. You are alive because his life is in you, and it's not based on you. It's based on a promise that he made to his son, and he's never going to break the promise that he made to his son. So you and I get to stand in utter security, knowing our life is secure. In 1 John, he writes this in chapter 3. See how great a love the Father has bestowed on us, that we would be called the children of God, and such we are. For this reason, the world does not know us, because it did not know him. Beloved, now we are children of God, and it has not appeared as yet what we will be. We know that when he appears, we will be like him, because we will see him just as he is. And everyone who has this hope fixed on him purifies himself just as he is pure. Everyone who practices sin also practices lawlessness, and sin is lawlessness. You know that he appeared in order to take away sins, and in him there is no sin. Where are you and I at? In him. No one who abides in him sins, and no one who sins has ever seen him or knows him. Look, we so quickly hear that word, and we get so caught up in the idea that God is after every little mistake we make. Now, truthfully, he paid for every single mistake that we ever made. But he's after you and I, as a father is after a lost child, or after somebody he wants to come home. That's what he's talking about as far as sin here. He goes, you can't do that as a believer because you've met the Father. Your heart beats for the Father. You wake up in the morning and you say, good morning, God, I love you. You would never say any of those things if you were still sinning, or in other words, not believing all that Jesus came to show, what the Father was really like. That's how you ultimately sin, is to think that God is a God sitting up on a throne, looking down at you, judging you, taking notes of all the things you did wrong, when really he's a father waiting at the end of a driveway for a lost son or a daughter to come home. That's what he's like, and he's waiting there every single day and every single night until you come home. That's what he's like. And when you come home, you know what you find? You find a dad that doesn't care about the things you did, doesn't care about anything in your entire life that's ever gone wrong. He wants to take over and bless you and cover you and clothe you and put rings and authority on you and say, you are my child. See yourself the way I see you. That is what the Father's truly like. And I pray tonight, wherever you are, whatever you're going through, that this would be your moment right now, that you would say with me on this eve of Christmas, Lord, I see what you did. You came to show me how good God really is, how much he truly loves me. And right now, in just a moment, you can receive these words for the first time. John 14:27 says, peace I leave with you. This is Jesus. My peace, his peace, the kind of peace that when you're in the middle of a storm in a boat and everything's capsizing, he's like, we're good. My peace I give to you, not as the world gives do I give, not based on something you've done for me. Do not let your heart be troubled, nor let it be fearful. You are no longer a slave to fear as a child of God because you are in the family and you have gained peace. A peace that's not of this world, a peace that's not based on the lack of trouble or the presence of trouble, but a peace that comes from knowing that you are a child of God. You are a part of God's family forever, forever and ever and ever. And oh, by the way, what you were worth to him was his own life, which he willingly laid down to give you. I don't know how much the life of God is worth, but I would think we can agree it's priceless. It's priceless. He considers you priceless. You are worth it to him, and he would do it again if he had to, and he never will because he finished the work he came to start. So tonight, right where you're at, if you would like peace, maybe you're in the middle of the worst storm of your life, maybe you know God, maybe you don't. Either way, you can repeat this after me right now and welcome in peace into your life and experience the peace that I'm talking about. Pray this with me if you would. Jesus, I ask you to come into my heart, to come into my life, and show me how good the Father is. I pray right now that you would turn my life upside down and that I would see how good you are. Lord, I pray for every single one of those people that prayed that prayer, that they would begin experiencing your peace right now in Jesus' name, that they would see you, Father, for how good you are, and they would celebrate with joy as we sing together.